Let's do this all defense draft, Logan. I'm very excited. So if you missed it, we picked our all offense teams last week. We had a draft, and you can go check out those rosters. You can go check out that full episode. Today, we are going to be drafting our all defense teams. What that means is that we are literally only playing the defensive end of the floor. We do not care about these players' offensive abilities whatsoever. It is purely about getting stops. And the way we're going to test this all at the end is we're basically going to simulate what if my offense only played offense against Logan's defense, and then Logan's offense comes out and plays offense against my defense. The way we're going to do that, we'll get into later, but we're going to use a simulator, and I think that that'll be pretty fun, and we can sort of declare a winner of this whole all-time draft ordeal. But you had the first overall pick for the offense draft, Logan, and the way we did it was a fixed draft, meaning you picked first, third, fifth, seventh, ninth. Then once we got through our starters, we flipped it where I was picking first every round for the bench. Should we just flip it where I have the first overall pick, or do you want to do rock, paper, scissors again? Okay.
I think that's the best way to do it. I think I got the
That's
first
fair.
pick. Since it's just us two, I think you should get the first one here.
So with the first pick, I'm just going to take the greatest defensive player of all time. I'm going to get Bill Russell. As I've talked about many times over, there's really no argument for anybody else if you judge people against their contemporaries, because the impact that a truly great defensive player could have in the 1960s before the three-point line, when sheer rim protection was so important because those shots were so much more valuable than anything else. He was so completely dominant that he anchored 12 number one defenses in 13 years, defenses that weren't very good before him and fell off immediately after he left. And you can argue that if you take him outside of the context of that era, he's not like the clear number one pick, but I'm going to take the greatest defensive player ever. And I do think that his tools are incredible. His agility at 6'9", his basketball IQ, he was an absolute genius. He routinely averaged 8 to 10 blocks per game, other estimates that we have. And based on the games that I've watched, that I've hand tracked, that is legitimately accurate. And he's one of the few greatest rebounders we have ever seen in the history of this game. So there's just nobody that I'd rather have anchoring my defense at the 5 spot.
I think it's a good pick. And I think that is a common misconception about Bill Russell, just the stylistical things about transporting him to a different basketball era. Bill's a winner. Bill was always a winner, and he was selfless and was committed to playing that role on that end and doing his job for a team that needed him to fill that role exactly. And the bigger thing to me is exactly what you talked about. I think he's going to have positional versatility, whatever era you drop him in. He's always going to bring tremendous instincts and IQ, and he's one of the greatest rebounders of all time. I think his defensive abilities translate to any era. That being said, I am going to get the number one player on my big board. I think he's the greatest defender of all time. That's Hakeem Olajuwon. I'm just talking about skill sets, defensive floor raising, and Carson built such a unique offense that maybe all of my picks, and I've thought about this, maybe I won't draft the best defenders in a vacuum, but I am going to have to take some guys that are going to need to be able to match up with some of his individual players. And one of the guys he got in that draft was Shaquille O'Neal. I can't think of a better guy to match up with Shaq on the low block than Hakeem. Obviously, when those two faced off in the NBA Finals, that was a very young version of Shaq. It was nowhere near the Diesel, the Superman, the big guy that we got when he was at the absolute peak of his powers. But Hakeem shut the young man down, took him off the floor in 4 games, and I can't think of a better deterrent to match up against the big man than Hakeem. So I'm very happy to get him with the second pick.
I do think it's worth noting, having just actually rewatched Game 4 of the 1995 NBA Finals, there is still so much double and even triple teaming of Shaq going on. Like, realistically, nobody can deal with Shaq one-on-one in NBA history. Hakeem can do about as good a job as anybody. I mean, he really was an exceptional post defender, really could battle with those uber powerful bigs. And at the same time, he had the agility to cover ground, and he's one of the greatest rim protectors we've ever seen. And he's got maybe the greatest hands that we've ever seen from a big. So I do consider him the greatest defender of the modern era. Again, the thing with Russell is just the impact. It's unparalleled. It's unparalleled what he could do as one man on the defensive end. And he's another guy, by the way, who is, despite not being the biggest guy, an elite post defender, played Wilt Chamberlain significantly better than anybody else. Shout out to Nate Thurmond, who did a good job as well. But Russell checks all the boxes I'm looking for. Now, there's obviously a super loaded position when we're talking about defense, and it's the center spot, and the two best defensive centers ever go off the board with the first two picks. Now I'm going to go with a guy who is maybe the most versatile defensive player ever. I'm going to take Kevin Garnett here. I just think regardless of what sort of configuration I am going to put around him, he is going to be a guy with A-plus impact. He is so uniquely agile at 6'11" with the 7'5" wingspan. His ability to guard in space and change direction, so unique, especially for his time. Super active hands. And then I think I'm already on a really good path to putting together the smartest defense ever, because I have maybe the two smartest defensive players ever with my first two picks. When you're just talking about communication, anticipation, knowing opposing teams' plays and tendencies and strengths and weaknesses, KG's checking all of those boxes at an unbelievable level. And he's got a GOAT level motor. Like, he is going to harass you. He was going to make you uncomfortable for every minute. He's not an elite rim protector, but he's a really, really good one. And I already have an all-time great rim protector and rim deterrent anchoring the 5, and he is an elite rebounder. So that ability to guard in space, to guard on the interior, he's the most versatile defensive power forward ever and one of the most impactful defenders ever. So I'm going to take him here.
Kevin Garnett's nuts. That's why I wanted him. I mean, you can shout out all the impact and his value. I want crazy guys on this basketball
It's a good take.
team. I want dudes who are just going to drive you insane. And that was honestly the biggest selling point for me with KG. I was hoping to get him a little later. I think it's a great pick here. There's a lot of ways I could go here. I'm going to take a guy on the perimeter, and I'm going to take Scottie Pippen. I want somebody that's complimentary. I've got the rim protector now. Now I want to check out some of my other boxes, and I think Scottie's the best perimeter defender of all time. And, yeah, I want some versatility. And that's the thing, right? I think a lot of people may have been confused at some of the order that we went in with the offensive draft, and it's like I'm not always just going to get the best value for a guy. I need to build a cohesive roster, and I think Scottie's going to really help. You know, it's like my Larry pick or like a KD pick earlier. They may not be the best individual offensive engines as your number ones, but as connective glue guys and connective pieces, I really think that their value is immense. So I'm going to take Scottie Pippen here.
It's a good pick. I do think that he is the best pure wing defender ever. The length, he's incredible on ball and is very versatile there, but then he also is like legitimately a good secondary rim protector, really good rebounder, menace in passing lanes, generating steals. It's a really good pick. I'm going to take another guy who makes a case for being the most versatile defender of all time, though, alongside Kevin Garnett, and I legitimately think I now have the three smartest defensive players in NBA history, and I have two of the craziest. I'm going to get Draymond Green here.
That's a great pick. It's a great pick.
I just love the versatility that I'm getting here, and there has not been a better defender on the planet in the last 15 years than Draymond. This is a guy who can legitimately guard on the perimeter at a high level. He's quick, he's got great hands, and then he can also dig in the post, and he's a low center of gravity guy, and he's a psycho, and he's super physical, and he can hang on those switches against massive, massive players in the post. But the most important thing that he does at a truly insane level is his off-ball defense, his instincts as a helper, playing as a free safety, the ability to recognize what is happening instantaneously and then blow it up and communicate with his teammates. His interior defense is the best that we've ever seen from a player of his size, like a guy who is 6'5", maybe 6'6", because his length is crazy. He's got that 7'1" wingspan, and he's always graded as an elite rim protector. His opponent field goal differential at the rim that he allows is comparable, if you look at the past decade, or especially when he's at his absolute best, to the elite defensive centers. And I'm getting that with a guy who can really defend on the perimeter. I love it. I love what I've got with Draymond in the third round.
I wanted Draymond a
I'm sure you
lot.
did, buddy.
I'm gonna take. I'm gonna take Ben Wallace here.
Whoa.
I think.
Well,
I
no,
think.
the pick is in.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Ben Wallace here. Ben gives me some positional versatility and mobility. Actually,
If you want to change it, you can.
I'm debating between him and another Piston. Hakeem, yeah, I'm going to take Ben Wallace here. I think Ben brings me some positional versatility. He brings me some defensive playmaking. Do I want him over?
I think pick is in at this point.
I think he brings me a little bit more defensive versatility than the other guy I'm looking at, and I really value that. I want guys who are going to be able to defend multiple positions, and the other guy I'm thinking about is just a little bit more of a traditional five-man. That's going to be very important against Carson's team. I need guys who are versatile, and I think Ben Wallace just brings me a different level of versatility that I'm getting from some of these maybe other individual impactful players. So, yeah, that's who I'm going to take here at 6.
I'm surprised that you went Ben Wallace over another big who
Duncan.
could definitely play the 4 for you. Yeah, I'm surprised that Tim
Duncan
was
the guy I'm referring to.
Oh, interesting.
It's just a little bit clunky for me, I feel, with him and Hakeem.
I don't know that I totally agree. I mean, I guess the
But I'm
difficult
thinking
thing
I have
is
to defend LeBron and KD on the perimeter, and I just feel like Ben gives me a little bit better chance at that.
Yeah, I think that sometimes Ben Wallace's defensive versatility gets a little bit overstated because people look at him and think, oh, he's 6'9". He must have been out there guarding in space. But, like, Ben was really, really a dominant interior defender. He was excellent guarding the post against huge dudes. Like, that was really where he made his elite defensive impact. And then he had really good hands. The steal totals with him are always impressive. And he's an elite rim protector. So Ben Wallace is one of the greatest defenders ever.
I'm thinking, man, we got to match up against Shaq. You got Wilt, too. We got some big boys down there that I'm going to need some answers for. And I think Ben helps that.
Yeah, I think that Duncan is just such a genius, man. But listen, if I can get him at any point, I'm going to be thrilled. I'm going to be thrilled with that. And Ben Wallace is a guy who at least can play the 4 defensively, even though he's definitely more of a 5. I'm going to take another Detroit Piston who I think that you were hinting at. Let me get Dennis Rodman.
Fuck!
Yeah, man. I mean, I've just got versatility and psycho factor at, like, unprecedented levels, but that's what I wanted. I really, really wanted versatility. That's why I take KG. It's why I take Draymond, even though I think those are also just great picks in a vacuum for the caliber of defenders that they are. But, like, when you are just talking about pure on-ball defense, I think that Dennis Rodman is the most versatile we've ever seen. Like, his matchup versatility, it's not hyperbolic when people tell you that this guy guarded Magic at a really high level and then he actually gave fits to Shaq. Like, he was that sort of 1 through 5 defender. If that's ever been true for anybody, when people say, oh, he can guard 1 through 5, it legitimately is Dennis Rodman. So quick, insane screen navigation, insane, just psychotic ball pressure. And then he can hang with the big dudes in the post. He's got the hands. He's got that physicality, that fight in him. And he's just going to throw you off your A game. You're never going to be comfortable against Dennis Rodman. And he doesn't have like these super flashy steal or block numbers, but he's still highly disruptive off-ball defender. His rotations, always in the right place, drawing charges, drawing offensive fouls. And he's just going to leave everything on the line every game. I mean, he's going to gobble up rebounds that nobody else can. He is going to dive for loose balls that nobody else would. It's insane. I think that I'm getting the best defender ever who was not a legitimately good rim protector. And I don't need more rim protection. I've already got that with the 3 dudes who I have in my front court. I love it, man. I mean, we can guard everybody. Everybody on the floor just about can guard everybody and do so many things at a high level.
I fear my team may be too pensive. When I literally thought about like the craziest team I could compile, I thought about KG, Draymond, and Rodman, and just like I don't want to play against
We're just playing that end of the floor, and we're going to freak you the fuck out. Nobody's going to have fun playing my team, ever.
I guess I'm just going with the all-stoic defensive team. Give me Kawhi Leonard here at number 8. I'm just going to get the best wing tandem defensively possible with Kawhi and Scotty.
Yeah, that's a really good pick. That's a really good pick. And if Rodman had been off the board, I would have taken Kawhi.
Rodman was my pick. I was going to get Rodman 100% with number 8. I'm so mad he wasn't available. That was the one guy. I just didn't want to overdraft him, and I feel like I should have taken him in that Ben Wallace spot.
I probably would have if I were you. But I'm going to take the best defensive guard in NBA history now just to really fill out that position because I have a bunch of versatile dudes, but I want a guy who specializes in guarding the perimeter, checking guards, but who is also crazy versatile. And that's Jason Kidd. I mean, Jason Kidd, just a massive defensive point guard. 6'4", maybe 6'5", with a 6'8" wingspan. So he can check those athletic guards. He can check those big wings. Phenomenal hands defensively. Another super high IQ defender. Another elite positional rebounder. I've got the best rebounding wing ever in Rodman. I've got one of the best rebounding centers ever in Bill Russell. And now I've got one of the best rebounding guards in Jason Kidd. And if you just look at the Nets defense, like before he got there, they were a bad defense. They were number 23 in defensive rating the year before he joined the team. He gets there. Next 2 years, they're the number 1 defense in basketball. And he wasn't solely responsible for that, but I do think that he was their best and most impactful defender in that run. And I don't think that he's really appreciated enough for being, in my opinion, the best, most impactful defensive guard that we've ever seen. I mean, you even look all the way to the 2011 title run with the Mavs, what he's doing defensive. But I'm taking New Jersey Nets Jason Kidd at his athletic prime.
It's a great pick. Kidd was the first guard on my big board as well, so I think it's really good value to get him here.
You know ball.
I'm going to take Tim Duncan, and I'm going to follow up taking Tim Duncan with the turnaround pick with a teammate of his, David Robinson, and we're just going to shore up the front court and lock in defensively.
Oh, man. You're so greedy with the bigs, bro. You don't need all these bigs this early. You got 4 true bigs in your first 6 picks.
Dude,
damn.
Honestly, the way I'm thinking about it, I might just get a bunch of good perimeter wings, and I might worry a little bit about our foot speed on the perimeter. That could be a potential issue, but I might just go with a jumbo-ass, big-ass lineup.
I wanted Robinson so badly. I thought he was just going to be an absolute steal because I was like, 2 centers would already be off the board. I'll get him at the top of the second round. And then when you took Wallace, too, I thought I'm chilling. I mean, it's a great pick. Like, the fact that he's only a one-time defensive player of the year just sells him short. I mean, the athleticism, so unique. His agility at his size, his hands. This is a guy who averaged 7 stocks per game one season. One of the greatest rim protectors we've ever seen. One of the most impactful guys. He inherited like a league average defense, made them top 3 immediately. Then you look at the 96 season, they're a top 3 defense, I think maybe the number 2 defense. He gets hurt for the 97 season. They plummet to being the worst defense in basketball. That was David Robinson's impact, and he's borderline top 5 all-time defensively. So to get him with the 11th pick, that's very good work. Wow, the top 11 guys on my board have all gone. That's interesting.
That's crazy.
So I'm going to take the guy who's number 12 on my board, and I'm just going to continue to prioritize versatility. And I'm going to get a guy who can still play the most valuable position for me defensively, but can play both the 4 and the 5, so I have that flexibility. I'm going to get Anthony Davis. I think Anthony Davis's ability to do so many things defensively at a high level, his agility guarding in space, his hands, elite rim protection, elite rebounding, really, really good post defender. Like, he can do it all. He's one of the most complete defensive bigs that we've ever seen. To me, the sort of like defining postseason run from him, even though ironically it ended with getting brutalized by Jokic, as you know, would happen to any one defender that we've seen in the NBA in the entire time that Jokic has been in the league. Like what he did against the Grizzlies in 2023 in the playoffs, just completely taking away the rim, averaging over 4 blocks per game. And then what he does next series against the Warriors, playing a totally different sort of role, high drop coverage, challenging Steph and challenging all the pocket passes at the same time, just covering so much space. He can play every defensive coverage. He can play multiple positions for me. Phenomenal, phenomenal defensive talent.
Man,
espresso. Let me breathe in deeply.
This is it's such an interesting draft. I'm just debating between positional value here and like
Yeah.
positions I need and guys I really want. There's two more wings that I really want. I just don't know if I should dip my toes back into the wing well again.
Well, I mean, wings are pretty damn valuable. Versatility.
I'm gonna take Gary Payton. I need somebody to defend on the perimeter at my guard spot.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I think he's probably the best defensive guard available. I debated between him and Jordan, if I'm being honest, but just thinking mentally, just the exertion that I think MJ can, he's. I don't want to take, I don't want to say that his offense takes away from his defense, but in a way, I do feel a little bit like that. So I need a guard. I think Peyton's the best defensive guard available, so I'm happy that I got him here at 13. And I need somebody to fucking stick with Steve Nash and Steph Curry. I mean, that's some nightmare coverage right there.
That's true. Like, I'm not thinking specifically about building this team to stop your offense, but that is a good point. I mean, they are going to be matched up against each other, and, like, I do have a couple of guards who are real fucking tough to deal with. But you have Kawhi, you have Scotty. Those guys can guard the perimeter at a very high level. But I think you're right to get a true guard defender, and I do think that the glove is the best guy left out there. Now, who do I want to go with? I am going to take an absolute freak athlete. I am going to take another guy who is super versatile, who provides a super distinct defensive value, and I'm going to get me a little Giannis Antetokounmpo. I think that there are certainly centers who were more impactful than Giannis at their absolute best, but at this point, I won't show my cards, but I'm good just taking Giannis right now because absolutely absurd rim protector for being a non-center. I mean, you look at him at his absolute best defensively, and he's holding opposing players like 15, 16% below their average field goal percentage at the rim. And just one of those crazy off-ball roam or free safety types that we've ever seen. And then a legitimately good on-ball defender as well. Not an elite one, but has some good versatility there. So if you're getting me like defensive Giannis circa 2020, he's kind of a one-of-one weapon, and I feel like he works in any system, especially when, again, I'm not asking him to anchor my 5. Like, he's probably going to be my 3 defensively, and I think that's a problem for opposing offenses.
It's a good pick, especially that version of Giannis. I'm going to take another guy that I think gives me really good versatility, and I think is kind of underrated. I'm going to take Bobby Jones here.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Logan, what a pick! What a great pick!
Thank
I'm
you.
not joking. I have Bobby Jones higher than Giannis on my board by 1 spot, and I was thinking I'm just going to wait because Logan's not going to take him, and I'll get crazy value.
I want Bobby Jones. I love it. The Secretary of Defense, man. I think that he's one of the underrated guys of those Sixers teams. One, Carson and I did a show a long time ago ranking the greatest teams of all time, and the reason that it's the 82 Sixers, right, or is it 83?
83.
The 83 Sixers, I mean, that team has so much talent top to bottom when you're talking about Mo Cheeks and Andrew Toney and, the stars among just not just Dr. J, not just Moses. That's a team that's great top to bottom, and Bobby Jones, I think, is instrumental in that. If memory serves me correct, was he traded for George McGinnis? Was that the deal that got him to Philadelphia?
Yes, it was, Logan.
And I think if memory also serves me correct, we've talked about this a few times, that a lot of people were really critical of that move at the time because Bobby had such a unique skill set, but it's one of those skill sets that's winning, that's connective. He's one hell of a defensive playmaker when you're talking about jumping passing lanes, blocking shots. He's versatile, can defend on the interior and on the outside. And I think versatility is the name of the game here, and I want to load up on some of these wings. So I'm going to take the Secretary of Defense.
I really like the pick, man. And I think that Bobby is part of a club of, I want to say just 4 dudes in NBA history to average 2+ steals and 2+ blocks per game in a season. So he really is one of the best defensive forwards that we've ever seen. I mean, insane help defender, psychotic effort, and the best defender on a lot of really elite Sixers defenses in the early 80s. So I like that pick a lot. I mean, no, he's not as freaky an athlete as Giannis or some of these other guys, but especially judging him against his era, one of the best defensive non-bigs we have ever seen. Now I have a few dudes who I'm considering. I'm going to take this guy just because I think you're lower on the other guy who I was considering. I'm going to take LeBron here. I mean, you give me LeBron circa 2013 when he's at his smartest defensively, when he's one of the most brilliant defensive players that we've ever seen, with that sort of insane anticipation, and like a dude who, maybe it's overstating it to say he could guard 1 through 5, but he could guard your 5 for possessions, especially when he had added strength like he had by this point, and he could guard your 1 for stretches with his quickness on the perimeter. Just such a versatile defensive player. This is when he's at his peak to me, when he's in his Miami years defensively. So explosive athletically, but stronger, smarter, and yeah, whatever I need him to do, right? He's a good low man for me. He's a good rebounder. He can guard the perimeter. He can communicate and get everybody else in the right positions. I think that this is a good pick, and I'm just stockpiling versatility, man. Like, wow. And I got a lot of crazy athletes.
Yeah, you do. The athleticism is pretty ridiculous. This guy kind of goes against the grain, I feel, of the team that I'm building. I have a very cerebral team. I'm gonna get a fucking psycho. I'm gonna draft Meta World Peace here. At,
I like it. I like it.
I need a nut. I need somebody that's gonna wreak some havoc. That's gonna create. I need a chaos agent essentially, and alongside bringing me a little bit of an edge, I'm getting a guy with great hands, with great feet, great defensive instincts, and a guy that's really versatile. He can defend on ball. He can be my low man defensively, as a as a help side rim protector. Yeah, and I need a little crazy. A lot of this team, I got Kawhi, I got Tim Duncan. I mean,
too many gentlemen.
Yeah, I need a chaos agent. I think Meta provides that.
Meta's definitely crazy. I will say, if you're talking about like off-ball defense, is he the most impactful guy ever? No, but when you are talking about insane on-ball, multi-positional, just guard anybody on the perimeter, quick, strong, has the length. Ron Artest, Meta World Peace, Meta Sandiford Artest. What was the other one that he went by for a time? The Panda's Friend. I knew it was something with pandas. It's a good pick. That's a good pick. I'm definitely not mad at that at this point. I'm going to take a guy who was right next to Ron Artest on my big board. I'm going to get Shane Battier. And then after this, I'm going to go and I'm going to take a defender who all time definitely ranks much higher than Shane Battier. But again, you got to understand the value in this draft, right? It's all about scarcity. And there are fewer great defensive wings than there are great defensive bigs. I think that Shane Battier might be the most underrated defender of all time. Like, this is a guy who is an excellent man defender. He's a good athlete. He's 6'8". He excels on the perimeter, but he can battle with those bigger forwards in the post. And he's just one of the smartest defensive players ever. Again, like a guy who was actually on the cutting edge of the analytics revolution. Like the first guy, notably, to really dig into opposing offensive players' tendencies, famously like guarded Kobe better than anybody else on the planet, but really, really bought into Daryl Morey's analytical philosophy. And I think that it gave him an edge defensively, but he was already a monster defensively. Like, such a great team defender, always in the right spot, always willing to leave his body on the line, and like probably an underrated low man, underrated secondary rim protector, averaged almost a block and a half a game one season. And the impact, we went on Player's Choice the other day and we were talking about Shane Battier defensively. And like the crazy thing is, his last year in Memphis, they ranked as the number 2 defense in basketball. The very next year after he left, they plummeted to the dead last defense, and they didn't have that much personnel change. And then he goes to Houston and he arguably gets even better defensively. So like, just a guy who I know is going to kill it in any role, any environment defensively, play hard, play smart, do a bunch of things. Guy who fully hangs his hat on that end of the floor, and that's what I want.
It's a good pick. I do think Battier is underrated, man. I mean, anytime an all-time great talks about you as the best guy that ever defended him, right? You know, Kobe always talks about Battier, about Tony Allen, guys like that. They deserve respect. I'm short on psychopaths. I need some crazy. I need some psychos. So I'm going to take Michael Jordan here. I do think Jordan's an all-time defensive guard. I know I was downplaying him just a minute ago, but all-time defensive playmaker. And Jordan's nuts. I mean, and that's what I'm counting on. I'm counting on Jordan at some point getting pissed off and just completely locking in at some point in this game and getting that chip on his shoulder. Because when Jordan locked in, you hear all the myths, you hear all the mystique. It's very real, and I feel like if I can get locked in and engaged and pissed off Jordan, again, I need some more guys with some of that mental edge, and I feel like Jordan and Ron Artest off the bench can fire the boys up.
And he's a good defensive guard. I mean, this is a little high for me for MJ because he's not the most versatile on-ball defender when you're thinking about some of those real big wings, like among this freaky group of defensive talents.
Of course, yeah.
And not always the best defensive decision maker, definitely a defensive gambler, which I do think paid off for him a lot.
Oh,
He
yeah?
made a lot of plays there. Yeah,
He's a bit of a gambler.
He's a bit of a gambler. I mean, MJ to me maybe would have been a few spots lower than this, but when you consider the need for guards, I can understand the pick.
There is a need. I'm looking at my roster and your roster, and I think there's a little bit of a desperation for me with athleticism where
That's fair.
Jordan's one of the greatest athletes of all time, and so I feel like I need some of that.
And one of the best rim protecting guards ever, and one of the best rebounding guards. So it's a solid pick. I'm going to take Dikembe Mutombo. I mean, he's just fallen too far at this point. And that's the thing. If anybody's wondering why has an ex-center gone, we'll talk about them afterwards. But, like, if we were just drafting the greatest defensive players ever, I mean, it would maybe more than half of this draft would be centers. But that's not what we're doing. We're trying to build a roster that works, guys who can play together and amplify each other. But I don't have a true center for my bench, so I will be taking Dikembe here. Dikembe at his absolute peak, I mean, kind of the only guy in the modern era who rivals Hakeem as a pure shot blocker. Well, shout out to Mark Eaton. Shout out to Manute Bol, although he only played like 20 minutes a game and sometimes even less than that. But, like, Dikembe, just absolutely absurd. And from the moment that he set foot in the league, joined this Denver defense that had been abysmal, immediately made them a good defense, and I think had one of the craziest defensive runs ever. If you look at 1994, he is by far the biggest reason that the Nuggets were able to pull off a historic upset against the 1-seed Sonics, because they stifled that Seattle offense. They held them 8 points below their regular season offensive rating, and that's mostly because Dikembe was averaging a light 6.2 blocks per game and is just one of the greatest rim protectors and rim deterrents that we've ever seen. And then the next series, he averaged 5.5 blocks per game against the Jazz. So, like, that level of rim protection, that size, 7'2", 250, that ability to guard the post, too good to pass up on here.
It's a good pick. I was wondering when Dikembe was going to go, and there's your bench big. I mean, like you said, man, rim deterrence doesn't get much better. I'm going to take Michael Cooper with this pick. I'm building up some of these guards and wings. I need guys that can match some guys on the perimeter, and Coop is really versatile. We were just talking about it with Jordan, but great hands, great defensive instincts, fantastic motor, and isn't a shot blocker in the traditional sense when you're talking about a help guy in the half court, but in transition can chase down blocks. A great screen navigator of his time, and Larry Bird says he was the best matchup that they ever put on him. The Lakers did, and so I think that I'm getting a guy that can defend multiple positions, that can make plays at every level basically, and is always going to give me 100% of his effort. I think he's one of the greatest defensive guards of all time, and he's pretty big for being a defensive guard. He's 6'7", so I'm really happy to get Coop here.
Coop's a good pick. And one of the first sort of guard perimeter defenders who I would still have on the board at this point. I'm going to take another Laker, another perimeter defender for LA. This is a pick that is probably going to be underrated when we post our graphics and people vote on who has the better draft. But I'm going to take Jerry West. Jerry West is one of the best defensive guards ever and really unique defensive value. I mean, good vertical athlete, super long wingspan, and we only have 31 games of steals and block totals for him, and it's from his 35-year-old season in 1974. It was the first year that they tracked it, and in those 31 games, he averaged 2.6 steals and 0.7 blocks per game. Like, this is a guy who could give you close to a block a game and was somebody who could cause havoc in passing lanes, forcing turnovers. I do need another guard defender. I want a guy who can have that on and off ball impact. Jerry West, to me, is the best answer remaining at the position.
I think I'm just going to take the best player available. Which one do I go with? I think I'm going to take Kareem. I'm going to take Kareem here,
Okay.
and he'll be my last pick. I was debating between him and Wilt with this last pick, maybe some other big men. But I'm looking at my roster right now, and I've got a really good rotation of guards and wings. I don't really feel like I need to reinvest there. And so,
Yeah.
considering I don't desperately need a position, I'm going to go with the most impactful position, and I'm going to take an all-time defensive center in Kareem.
Can't hate on the pick. Kareem, he gets razzed on in Airplane for not giving it his all defensively by little Timmy Winkles or whatever that little kid's name is. That was true of older Kareem. When Kareem first got into the league with the Bucks, he was a defensive monster. I mean, he was just the biggest dude in the league. He was unusually agile for that size. He's an insane rim protector, monstrous rebounder, and basically automatically made the Bucks a top 2 defense. So I think it's a solid pick. You mentioned Wilt. I mean, there are so many centers, dude, who we can go through. Dwight Howard, Rudy Gobert,
Yep.
Bill Walton, Nate Thurmond, Alonzo Mourning. Like, these are all dudes who, if we were just ranking the 24 best defenders ever, I do think would be on that list if you're talking about at their peak with a guy like Walton who didn't quite have the staying power, sadly. But that's not what we're doing here, man. And I already have Bill Russell, and I already have Dikembe Mutombo. In what world do I need another pure center when I also have Anthony Davis who can play the center and I have KG who can play the center? I'm going to get another guy who can be my 4 or my 5. I can already see the people are not going to love this pick, but I don't care. I think it's justified. I'm taking Evan Mobley, bro.
Whoa!
Yeah. I think he's that freakish defensively, dude. I mean,
Wait,
just
over
think about the
Wemby?
skill set.
Are you? Oh wait, and hold up.
I just don't need another true center.
I have 2 follow-up questions.
Yes, please.
One, so yeah, just over Wemby.
Dude, Wemby is, to me, the better defender. I don't need another true center. If I can get a guy who I can put in a switch everything lineup, and he can go out there and who are some of the dudes on your team? Oh, yeah, he'll give me good possessions against the Larry Bird. He'll give me a possession or 2 against MJ. Like, Mobley's so good guarding in space. And then he's also an elite rim protector, and he's a really good rebounder, and he's abnormally smart defensively. I am putting a premium on versatility, the ability to play and guard multiple positions and do a number of things defensively at a high level, play different coverages. Like I said, man, I've already got my 2 all-time great historic pure rim protectors. There are better defenders out there in the scope of NBA history than Evan Mobley. I don't think there's somebody who I would rather have to fit my needs. And my needs are always a little bit more Evan Mobley in my life.
Second, is there any projection involved in this?
No.
Like long term.
I think he's that
right
fucking
now,
good.
Right now.
I mean, I think that he is the second best defender on the planet right now in an era that is loaded with defensive talent. And I think that he is a much better fit for what I'm trying to do than Wemby. Like, I probably would have drafted, honestly, a Triple J over Wemby, even though I don't think they're close, just because of the difference in depth at the respective positions and because I think versatility is so essential to what we're doing here. I do want to shout out a ton of guys, though. I mean, I just went through kind of the Rolodex of centers there. The guard, who I was really considering up against Jerry West, who I think the people probably would have preferred as a pick because of recency bias maybe and just being more familiar with the modern game. Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday has been such a phenomenal defensive guard and the best defensive guard overall of the last decade plus. Monster. Another perimeter guy who I was considering, who I'm kind of bummed that I couldn't get on my team, is Bruce Bowen. I went with like a Battier over him because Battier is a more impactful team defender.
He's a little
bigger, stronger. But when it just comes to irritant man defender, step on your foot with some closeouts, play dirty, play psycho, Bruce Bowen, definitely a problem. And another defender of that era who I would have loved to get on my team, but there's just too much talent, AK-47, man.
Yeah.
Such a unique defensive weapon. I mean, kind of the stocks GOAT, just in terms of at his peak of the 2000s, where he's giving you almost 2 steals and over 3 blocks a game. But that's the kind of versatility that I love from a wing. Those are really all the guys who I strongly considered. Oh, and Gerald Wallace. I was never going to take Gerald Wallace, but I just love Gerald Wallace as a defensive player. Anybody else who you want to shout out?
I think you hit on him. The only guy I'd give an additional shout to, I did think about taking Alvin Robertson with one of my late guard picks, but...
And shout out Sidney Moncrief, another great defensive guard. The first 2 defensive players of the year went to him.
I just preferred other guards, and Alvin's a little bit smaller, and I really value that size and athleticism, so that's why I went the way I did. I don't think I have anybody. I think Gary Payton's my smallest guy, but I mean, he plays bigger than he is.
I think GP is your smallest guy, and I think that Jerry West is my smallest guy, who's 6'3" and long and athletic. Yeah, there's definitely a strong incentive to pick dudes who are big. I mean, you just don't want anybody who can be picked on at any time defensively. These are some pretty loaded defenses.
Yeah,
why don't you read off your entire roster?
So I have Hakeem Olajuwon, Scottie Pippen, Ben Wallace, Kawhi Leonard, Tim Duncan, David Robinson, Gary Payton, Bobby Jones, Metta World Peace, Michael Jordan, Michael Cooper, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Ooh-wee. I have got Jason Kidd, Dennis Rodman, Draymond Green, KG, and Bill Russell. Oh, the switchability that we have, Logan, the rebounding, the athleticism, the psycho factor. God, I love it. I love it. And then off the bench, Jerry West, Shane Battier, LeBron, Giannis, AD, Dikembe, Mobley. Again, a lot of the same strong points, really, with the versatility, the athleticism, the IQ. I love my team defense. We're going to take a second. I'm going to put all these teams into a simulator, and then we'll see who comes out on top. So here's how we're going to do this. I have put all of our teams, my all-offense team, my all-defense team, Logan's all-offense team, Logan's all-defense team, into a simulator. Shout out to What If Sports. They allow you to pick different players any season. You can do any sort of fantasy draft that you want. Super fun stuff. The way that we are going to test who put together the better teams, my all-offense team is going to face Logan's all-defense team. His all-offense team is going to face my all-defense team. We do not care one single bit, as we've said many times before, how well an all-offense team plays defense or how well an all-defense team plays offense. So the only thing that we are going to count is how many points our respective offenses, our all-offense teams, put up in these games, because that measures how well did our offense do against his defense, how well did Logan's offense do against my defense. So I hope that makes sense. We're going to be just comparing the offensive scores so we can purely measure how great our all-time offenses are at getting buckets and how great our all-time defenses are at getting stops. We'll do a best-of-7 series. And with that, I say we get into it.
Let's do it, man.
Let's play these games. Okay. Your offense put up 111 points against my defense, and my offense put up 116 against your defense. So I win game 1. Ironically, my teams won both of these games, but that doesn't matter. All that matters is how our offenses did. Let's take a look at the box score.
Beat my all-offense team?
They actually did, if you can believe it.
That doesn't even make any sense.
Let's see. My all-offense team, KD, an efficient 20 points and 6 assists on 8 of 11 shooting. LeBron goes 6 of 9 for 14 points. Everybody got in on the fun a little bit. Steph had 22 on decent efficiency. Did anybody go crazy for your all-defense team? Duncan had 4 blocks.
Wait, actually, I do have one follow-up question for this. So
Please.
Are we doing individual wins or whoever's offense puts up more points over the course of the series?
Let's do individual wins.
Okay.
Let's do individual wins so it still feels like a game. So this is game
so
1.
You're up game 1.
My offense wins 116-111. Let's look at the other game. For your offense, the MVP, unclear.
Did anybody shit the bed?
MJ, 8 points on 4 of 11 shooting with only 2 assists to 2 turnovers.
Mike!
That's not going to cut it. Jokic was pretty efficient for you, 16, 6, and 4. SGA with 12 off the bench. D Wade with 14 off the bench. They were super efficient. And Ray with 10 off the bench in 5 minutes. So your bench
Mike
did
sold.
pretty well.
That's on MJ.
Mike, oh my God, I missed Larry, went 5 of 15.
Bro.
And Oscar went 4 of 10. Bro, well, you know who had them in hell? You know who had them in hell on the other side? Draymond, Dennis Rodman, KG. Oh, yeah, we hooped. All right, we're on to game 2. Game 2 is another win for my boys. 103-100. My offense outscored yours.
Man. Rock
fights. Rock fights. Change from game 1 vibes. This time, your offensive team did beat my defensive team, but my offense still prevailed at the end. Let's see who came through for the boys. LeBron, another efficient 18. KD had a rough shooting night, but we moved. We survived. Nash, 13 on 6 shots with 6 assists. Hooping. Kobe with 11 off the bench. I'm happy with how the fellas played here. By the way, we set our rotations and everything, so these are really how we want these teams playing. Ron Artest had 4 steals for you off the bench, Logan. Holy shit, dude. I should have looked at the total steal and block totals. Your defense had 18 steals and 10 blocks in this game.
That's ridiculous.
So they're doing their job. My defense had 12 steals and 7 blocks. Not as crazy, but we got a ton of stops. We did. Oh, Logan, I've got bad news about Larry Bird in this series. 5 of 16. I mean, Rodman, I think it's mostly Rodman, has him in hell.
He
has him in hell.
I think I drafted one too many white guys.
I mean, we're just overwhelming you athletically. Oh, I didn't even see the 6 turnovers from Larry. Oh, my God, he's having a disaster of a series. Okay, now we're going to flip who's at home. So now my defense is at home. And your defense is at home.
Dude, I swear, if I get swept, man.
If you get swept, buddy, well, then that's just the way it goes sometimes.
I'm going to walk
Let's
the plank.
see. Nope, you take game 3. Your offense puts up 115. My offense only puts up 103. Wow, my offense against your defense was a 103-89 game. Dogfight. Wow. Let's see who let the fellas down for me. Interesting. I guess we had a lot of turnovers. That was our big problem. Steph had 5 turnovers. We had 17 in total, and nobody really balled out. Nobody really went crazy. Ooh, we didn't rebound well. We only had 5 offensive rebounds. For you, Logan, Larry bounces back. He gets player of the game in this one. 15, 10, and 5, but I maybe would have given it to Jokic with 23, 10, and 5 on 10 of 17 shooting. Or Dirk, who had his first real impact game. So your offense did much better. Draymond had 3 steals and 3 blocks for my defense. We had 8 steals and 10 blocks. Let's see what your defense did. 14 blocks and 10 steals. My God.
Playmakers.
Your defense, they can stuff a stat sheet. All right. 2-1. Carson's all-time teams lead. And we take game 4. My offense puts up 115. Your offense puts up 106. So the fellas did their jobs on both ends of the floor for me, but really the offense hooped. Steph with 24.7 assists. LeBron 16, 8, and 9. LeBron has been so efficient. He has filled his role exactly as we hoped. He's doing everything. Wilt gave me 16 off the bench with 7 rebounds, 4 assists.
The point differential is 5 through 4 games, man.
Wow, really? Scotty had 3 blocks and 3 steals for you. I mean, your guys' rim protection, 14 blocks and 7 steals from your defense. Let's go look at your offense. Ooh, Larry had 17 rebounds and 6 assists. Dirk had 18. So they gave Larry player of the game again. D-Wade had 11 off the bench. Kareem had 10 off the bench. But for my defense, 5 blocks and 2 steals by Bill Russell. 4 blocks by Dikembe in 11 minutes.
Backs against the wall, man. We got to get busy.
Let's see what you got, bro. And now we are going back to the offenses being at home for game 5. Let's see what we got. It's a win for the boys, baby. Wow, 2 really, really close games. My offense put up 110. Your offense put up 102. But your defensive team put up 109, and my defense put up 97. So it's a win for my team. Let's take a look at this box score. Another 14 block performance by your defense. Ridiculous. Hakeem with 3 blocks and 4 steals. I kind of thought David Robinson would put up crazier defensive numbers in this series. I feel like he didn't really. I mean, KD just went out and he gave whoever you threw at him the business. Kawhi didn't bother him. Scotty didn't bother him. 21 points, 9 assists on 8 of 11 shooting.
So LeBron and KD just ate my lunch. They just ate my lunch.
Ate your lunch, bro. Even though your perimeter defenders are good. Shaq came in. He had 17 in this game. Nobody could really do anything with him. Nash, a solid 12. Steph, 18 on 8 shots. Yeah. I mean, it's just beautiful offense that we play. Everybody gets touches. Everybody can shoot. Everybody can play make. Let's look now at your offense, Logan. Ooh, rough three-point shooting game. 2 of 15 for your offense.
Why are we only taking 15 threes? That's the way I built the roster, man.
Well, I've got bad news. Well, I mean, to be fair, your starting lineup does have Larry, MJ, Oscar. Those guys aren't going to be putting up threes.
I mean, Larry,
you really didn't build a shooting team, and then your bench is Shea, Kareem, Dr. J, D Wade.
I'm just saying,
Giannis,
Larry, Dirk, and Jokic should be pulling all game.
Well, the bad news is they weren't really, but Dirk played well. He had 17. Quiet Jokic game. Larry got his 20. It just wasn't enough and didn't shoot well enough from deep, and I think that my rim protection had an impact. Man. 10 blocks, everybody doing their job. I mean, it's just hard, man. We're switching everything. Everybody can guard everybody on the floor. We're psychos. We're getting in your head.
I think that's a component. I think that's why I lost the series, man. I think you got too many deranged people on your squad.
We've got so many deranged people on the defense, and then on the offense, everybody plays the right way. It's just beautiful team basketball. That was fun, man. That was very fun. We've only done that a couple times where we actually put our teams in the simulator, but whenever we can, I think it's worth it.
I'd love to do an all-time team draft with more people where...
Oh, we'll do it.
I don't know, man. Maybe we put together like an abbreviated season and can simulate it or something. We'll figure out how to put it together and what to do, but these have been super fun, and I really hope the audience has enjoyed as well.
So it's official. I built the better teams. I built the better all offense. I built the better all defense.
The fake news media. Yeah, I got.
But you guys can still vote. We'll put up our graphics of our teams, and you can vote on our polls. But at this point, the results are in, and once again, Carson Breber reigns supreme. This was a ton of fun. I'm happy that we
should
did
get that.
this.
That should be our merch line.
Carson Breber reigns supreme.
I'd buy a shirt.
Yeah, that's what's up. That's what's up.